Hey guys, Toby here, aka RockysReef. So I'm doing this for the first time. Putting a YouTube video out there because a couple of you guys have asked, well, what tank are you running, what system you're running, what fish have you got, what sort of substrate you're using. A few people have been coming to me for some advice and some questions as well. So what I'd do, thought I'd probably put together a nice video of kind of how I got into reefing, talk about the 320 gallon that's sitting downstairs, and also how I kind of developed into getting into reefing and saltwater aquariums, because it's taken a while to get to this stage. So let's jump in. So what I want to do first is take you way back before I was even born, starting with my granddad. So my granddad, Kenneth, he actually bred Siamese fighting fish, so freshwater bettas or betas, whatever you want to call them, for competition. So he and my dad would breed all these multicoloured fish in little individual tanks in the shed in the garden. And they would take them to competitions in all jam jars, and it was part of my granddad's kind of lifestyle and hobby that he developed. And also obviously my dad got involved in maintaining the multiple tanks and the multiple fish that they breed for competition standard. I grew up around fish tanks because of this. So my granddad, he had a big tank in his living room that I'd spend forever gawping at all the time. And my dad, I think he had a couple of tanks as well growing up. I can't really remember whether we had many tanks when I was growing up and I was living with them, but it's something that my dad has always shown an interest in. For example, we had ponds when we lived in the larger house, so he was always talking about fish, always going to garden centres and the local fish shops as well, just to see what was happening. So where it kicked off with me was day one of when I moved out. This was about 5 or 6 years ago now. Moved into a small studio apartment, and I thought this was a great opportunity to get into the aquarium hobby again, so I started off with a Fluval edge. Now to me these tanks were really aesthetically pleasing. You could fill them all the way to the top, and you could peer through the top of the glass if you got the water levels right. They had a hang on the back filter, so nice and easy to look after. And I started off with a freshwater tank, nothing outrageous, and then from that I bought another Fluval edge. And in doing that, I got into cichlids for a little bit as well. Kind of got into that and was kind of like, well, this isn't really actually what I'm looking for. So then this was where I looked at reef tanks. I've always had a real interest in the ocean, but I'd never really put two and two together until I started seeing people like Inappropriate Reaver, Telegram, and other YouTube channels and influencers out there. And I was like, well, hang on, why can't I do this? So I went out to my local pets at home and bought a just cheap £30 10 gallon, I think it was about 10 gallon fish tank. No filter, no nothing, just a glass box, and that was where it started really. To do the filtration on that I used an Eheim canister, and I don't think I even had a power head in it. The flow from the canister was enough, and this is really where I started to learn kind of the basics in reefing. In that tank I think I started off with some crabs which came free as some hitchhikers, and they were emerald crabs luckily enough, and I just had 2 clownfish and a Midas plenty. Believe it or not, Rocky is the first fish I got. I think this was about 5 years ago now, 6 years ago, and she has gone from tank to tank to tank to tank, and she's in the 320 that's downstairs now. So going back to the 10 gallon, it cracked. I couldn't believe it. The base cracked and there was like a slow leak happening. I could see all the salt creep coming up the side of the glass. So I went and got, it was more of a Peninsula style tank. Again, another 10, maybe 15 gallon tank. And this was my first introduction to wave makers as well, and making sure that I was getting enough flow. I kept the clownfish in there, so Rocky and her husband, Sooty, in there as well, and Mushu. Okay, so backstory on this. We name all of the fish. So we had Mushu, which is a Midas penny as well. But then I got into more things like dwarf angels. So the way this tank was, it could allow for at least one more fish because the amount of rock work and how the rock work was spaced out. So I got a rusty angel, and she's still with us. Her name is Rusty, and she's in the 320 as well downstairs. So we've had a cracked tank, we've got a new tank. This new tank then cracked as well. So I soon learned that spending sub £100 or 100 quid on a tank clearly wasn't the direction to be going when kind of looking into reefing and kind of the maintenance that's needed. So then I went out and I got a 25-gallon tank, and this was an Aqua One. I think the Aqua One 100, I think it was called. And this actually had all the filtration cartridges in the back. So with this, I was able to integrate more filter media and more biological filtration, as well as having the canister. This was by far the single best tank I managed to own and kind of turn into a reef. All the corals were hugely successful. I had rapid growth. I had SPS in there. I had softies in there. I had LPS in there, and a giant bristleworm. I'll see if I can find the video or the picture, but there was a bristleworm that probably went 2 foot. But yeah, as I say, that was the most successful tank that I had, and the coloration that I was able to get out of the corals was fantastic. So I had that tank for 2 years. Yeah, I think it was about 2 years, and I had no major failings in that. And during that time I met other half man. So then we started looking for a house, and luckily we found this place. There was an area of about 3 feet deep and 8-9 feet wide in the kitchen that had no units. There was no real purpose as to why it was there. It was just kind of like empty space. And we were already going to be redesigning the kitchen. Being the mastermind that I was at the time, went, can I please put a tank in this wall? And she was like, yeah, as long as you look after it and pay for it, yeah, sure, why not? And I was like, oh. So this happened, and this is where the 320 comes along. I won't take you through the whole building itself. It's all on Instagram if you want to see that, which is at RockysReef. So please kind of like the page, and then you can find out about how the build went and how that was. But essentially I ended up getting a 7 foot wide by I think 2.5 feet tall by 2.5 feet deep custom built tank, and it's sitting on a steel frame upon laminate upon concrete with a weir on the right hand side. So technically it is a Peninsula tank, but I decided and really wanted something that you could look through and really give that extra dynamic to the house. So whilst this was kind of in the making, we went to Hurghada in Egypt for a 2-week holiday. We travelled between Hurghada and also Turtle Beach, which is about 4 hours south of Hurghada, visiting different reefs, going to different locations, swimming with the turtles, and I even met a Titan triggerfish whilst we were there as well. And no word of a lie, it was probably 2 and a bit feet in length. It was an absolute monster of a fish. But the reef that was at the bottom of the hotel gave me the inspiration for the scape that I've got in the 320 at the moment. You jumped in at one end and you had reef on either side of you, and you had to swim down the middle, which is why the tank looks like it does. It looks like you almost swim through the middle of this tank with a big negative space in the centre. But you've got this little island and a cliff on one side, and on the other side you've got a nice bit of peninsula that comes out with a nice overhang for all the tangs to hide underneath. I really wanted to try and get as much inspiration from the Red Sea and put the Red Sea into this tank, which is why I've got the purple tang, we've got a sailfin tang, we've got the firefish in there. Absolutely love them. Really great visually as well. They are always in the centre of the tank. They are always swimming in the open water, which is great to see. 5 Emperor Cardinals. Emperor Cardinals have nothing to do with the Red Sea, but I wanted something in there quick that was good for shoaling. They don't really shoal. Got the Midas plenty in there. So I've got 4 clownfish, 2 black and white clownfish called Thing 1 and Thing 2. A breeding pair, which is Rocky and City. They are now on their 3rd clutch in this tank. I've also got Rusty, can't forget about Rusty, the Rusty Dwarf Angel. she's got attitude. And what you'll notice as well is that I've got a lot of sand bed in there. Now, to the side with the cliff and the little island, the sand bed there is actually 8 inches deep. And this is because I'm looking at some point in the near future to get spotted garden eels. The plan for this tank is to really get into the corals. It's not going to be anything specifically dominant, so I'm not going to go for an SPS dominant. I'm not going to be LPS, I'm not going to be softy. I really want a mixed reef because I want it to look as natural and as I experienced when I was out there snorkeling in the Red Sea. So currently, coral wise, I've got pink tip frog spawn, green tip frog spawn, green tip torch. I have got a rainbow encrusting Monty, green plating Monty and a purple plating Monty. I've also got an acro in there, a tricolour anemone. I've got some green mushrooms, I've got some red mushrooms, and also a Kenya tree. And that is pretty much the extent of it. I've also got a candy cane, a neon green candy cane as well, and a bunch of others, which I completely forgot about. So I'm not really dosing anything, I'm not really feeding anything to do with the corals. The only things I am dosing is 2 parts Fritz, so alkalinity and calcium, not touching magnesium. And magnesium hasn't dropped despite all of this growth that's going on at the moment, especially with the Monties, and also the nitrate as well. That's the only other thing I'm dosing. So not really a lot is happening at the moment. As I say, it's only 10-11 months old, this tank, so it's still very new and still needs a lot of time to mature. But everything's heading in the right direction. I'm getting a little bit of a swing in phosphates at the moment, but I'm also having an issue with silicates, and that's even after it's gone through the RO system, which is why I've got red cyano in there, I've got some green algae, I've got some hair algae. I'm dosing nitrates to try and bring the nitrates up to a level that the Kado can process it and then look to process the phosphates. I am in the future potentially going to look at doing something like the Triton method. I just want to get the tank to at that stage where kind of the levels are kind of acceptable, and I've kind of got out that extended ugly phase that I seem to be going through at the moment. So enough about that. In terms of equipment, what am I running? So in the Sump, I have got a custom built acrylic Sump. Really good job, really high quality build on that, and also custom colours as well to the RockysReef theme with the orange and the white. So really good quality there. In terms of what I'm using for filtration, I have got an SK5000 filter roller. Works insanely well, pulls out so much crap out of the water. Really efficient. And then next to that, I've got the Refugium, and in there I'm using Kado. No other biological media at all, because of the amount of sand and the amount of rock that I've got in the tank. And then the skimmer I'm running is a Nyos. It is not the largest Nyos, it's the middle Nyos. So in terms of the return pump, I've got a Versa L2, so the biggest return pump that Ecotech Marine do. And that does a decent job, and that feeds all the way through the system, over the top of the tank, over to the other side, and comes out using 2 random flow generators. I've got 2 Ecotech Marine MP40s. And on the side with the cliff and the little island, I've actually got a Tunze Stream 3 hidden actually inside the rock. So Tunze actually do like a rock that's actually got a hole in it that you can actually put the Stream 3 in. So I used that, which was a really nice way of hiding it all up, and I kind of built some rocks around the side as well, so you can't really see it, you can only see it from one side, which is kind of what I was aiming for, and that really pushes the water through to the other side of the tank. The MP40s are mounted quite high on the tank near the top. It also kind of causes a vortex through the middle. The vortex you can actually see happening sometimes as well, because I get little whirlpools right above where the overhang is on the tank, on the actual rockwork itself, which is where I've got a couple of Monties growing and some SPS on there, just kind of bedding in and just seeing what the tank does. So in terms of lighting, I have got 2 XR30s, Gen 4, and also one XR15, all with diffusers on them. Got them set about 80% of the AB Plus mode at the moment, and I think they are the minimum height above the water level. I think it's about 8 inches. The reason I couldn't go any higher is because of the frame that's behind and above the tank. It wouldn't let me get that mounting system higher. By turning the level of the lights down, I can guarantee that I'm not burning anything in there. And also with the spread given by the diffusers as well, I'm pretty sure that I'm kind of reaching where I need to reach. So I think that's kind of it. But if you could give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, put a comment below as well with some ideas on things that you want to see about the tank, what we're doing, what's new and updates as well. And don't forget to follow on Instagram. I'm more live on Instagram with more updates. So if you want to keep truly up to date on exactly what's happening, then follow me there. But apart from that, I will see you guys later. Look at the size of this thing.